Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into a topic that is sensitive but incredibly important, the lasting effects of growing up with less than ideal parenting. Sometimes, the habits and quirks we develop in adulthood are actually echoes of our childhood experiences. Recognizing these signs can be the first step toward understanding ourselves better and healing. So, let's explore 21 subtle signs that someone may have grown up with bad parents. First, an overdeveloped sense of independence. If you've always felt like you have to do everything yourself and find it nearly impossible to ask for help, it might be because you learned early on that you couldn't rely on your caregivers for support. You became your own rock because you had to. Second, constantly apologizing, saying I'm sorry for things that aren't your fault, like someone bumping into you, can be a sign. This often comes from being blamed for everything as a child, making you feel like you're always in the wrong or a burden to others. Third, you have a hard time accepting compliments. When someone gives you praise, do you feel awkward, dismiss it, or immediately point out a flaw? This can stem from a childhood where your achievements were ignored, criticized, or met with skepticism, making it difficult to internalize positive feedback. Fourth, you're a chronic people pleaser. You go out of your way to make others happy, often at your own expense. This behavior can develop when a child's sense of safety and love is tied to keeping a volatile parent calm and happy. You learn that your needs came second to theirs. Fifth, a deep-seated fear of failure. Not just the normal anxiety, but a paralyzing fear that makes you avoid trying new things. When mistakes were met with harsh punishment or ridicule, you learn that failure is dangerous, not a part of growth. Sixth, you feel guilty for relaxing. Do you find it impossible to just sit and do nothing without feeling unproductive or lazy? This can be a sign that you were taught your worth is tied to your productivity. You were only valued for what you did, not for who you were. Seventh, difficulty with emotional regulation. If you experience intense mood swings or your emotions feel overwhelming and uncontrollable, it might be because you were never taught healthy ways to process them. Your feelings might have been dismissed or punished, so you never learned to navigate them. Eighth, you struggle with setting boundaries. Saying no feels selfish or frightening. This is common if your boundaries were constantly violated as a child. You learned that your personal space and limits weren't respected, so you stopped trying to enforce them. Ninth, you have an anxious attachment style in relationships. You might feel a constant need for reassurance, worry that your partner will leave you or become overly dependent. This often mirrors an inconsistent or unreliable relationship with a parent, creating a deep fear of abandonment. 10th, you're overly critical of yourself. That harsh inner voice that constantly points out your flaws. It might sound suspiciously like a critical parent. You've internalized their voice, and now you've become your own harshest critic. 11th, you feel emotionally numb or detached. As a coping mechanism to survive a chaotic or painful childhood, you may have learned to switch off your feelings. This can persist into adulthood, making it hard to connect with your own emotions or with others. 12th, you find it difficult to trust people. If the first people you were supposed to trust, your parents, were unreliable or hurtful, it's natural to be wary of letting others in. You've learned that vulnerability could lead to pain. 13th, you often downplay your own problems. You might tell yourself it is not a big deal or others have it worse when you're genuinely struggling. This happens when your needs and feelings were minimized or ignored as a child. 14th, you have a high tolerance for poor treatment. You might find yourself in relationships or friendships where you're being disrespected or mistreated, but you don't leave. This can feel normal if it mirrors the dynamic you had with your parents. 15th, you feel responsible for other people's emotions. If you had to manage a parent's moods to keep the peace, you might continue to feel that it's your job to make sure everyone around you is happy. 16th, you feel a sense of emptiness or meaninglessness. Despite achieving things in life, you might feel a hollow void inside. This can stem from a lack of genuine connection and emotional validation in your formative years. 17th, you're a perfectionist. You believe that if you can just be perfect in your work, your appearance, your life, you'll finally be worthy of love and safe from criticism. This is an exhausting standard rooted in the feeling that you were never good enough. 18th, you struggle with making decisions, even small ones. You might constantly second-guess yourself, fearing you'll make the wrong choice. This can happen if your decisions were constantly criticized or overruled as a child, eroding your confidence in your own judgment. 19th, you feel like you don't really know who you are. When you spend your childhood focused on survival and adapting to your parents' needs, you don't get the chance to explore your own identity, likes, and dislikes. 20th, you flinch at loud noises or sudden movements. This heightened startle response can be a physical manifestation of growing up in an environment where you always had to be on high alert for yelling or unpredictable behavior. And finally, 21st, you feel an immense need to be a perfect parent yourself, often leading to extreme anxiety. You're so determined not to repeat the mistakes of the past that you put immense pressure on yourself, fearing any small misstep will damage your own children. If any of these signs resonated with you, please know you're not alone, and it's not your fault. Recognizing these patterns is a powerful act of self. Healing is a journey, and it often starts with understanding the why behind our behaviors. If you're struggling, seeking support from a therapist or a trusted mental health professional can be like there are people who can help you navigate these feelings and build a healthier, happier future. Thank you so much for watching and for your courage in exploring this topic. If this video was helpful, please give it a like and subscribe for more content. Take care.